Hey there, and welcome to your Yin Yoga practice. This one is all about the hips and the low back. No props are needed for this one, but if you like to use a blanket or a couple of towels in your Yin Yoga practice, feel free to pause the video and grab those. We're going to go ahead and get started on our backs. So just start to lie on back and keep the knees bent and plant the feet wider than your hips distance, so maybe about towards the outer edge of your mat there, and just let the knees fall together, coming to a constructive rest. And so feel free to maybe just take the arms loose down by your sides, or maybe perhaps taking the hands to the belly. And just start to notice here the parts of the back of the body that are making contact to the mat. Maybe see if you can start to tune into the body and notice if there's any areas of tension in the hips or the low back. And maybe perhaps you're unintentionally gripping around the thighs or the hips. So see if you can ease into the mat there. And just taking a moment to reconnect to your mat, allowing gravity to do its job, and just allow the back of your body to be nice and heavy here. And once you feel like you have found a nice posture, start to notice your breath. Notice how you're breathing right here in this moment. So try not to change the breath in any way, but just noticing the breath. Maybe you start to turn down the eyes and start to just simply notice where you're feeling the breath. So if you're feeling the breath more into the chest area or the abdomen, maybe deep belly breaths, or maybe the breath is getting caught in the throat. So again, without judgment, just noticing these little things about the breath and being more aware of what's going on, starting to turn inward here. And then let's take a moment to refine the breath a little bit more. So if you haven't already, start to seal the lips. And so we're going to start to inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Continuing to breathe just like that. And so whenever you find that your mind wants to wander away, just gently bring it back to the breath. So just keeping your focus as long as you can to the breath. And so maybe you start to allow the exhales to be slightly longer than the inhales. Maybe inviting in a 4-count inhale followed by a 6-count exhale. And just seeing how long you can focus on that. Noticing the rise and the fall of the belly if you have your hands on the belly. Maybe use your exhales to soften the back of the body into your mat a little bit more. And then whenever you're ready, release the hands down by your sides. Feel free to keep the eyes closed here, keeping the back of the body nice and relaxed, allowing the pelvis to be heavy, the belly to be softened. Start to take the knees away from each other. Keep the feet where they're at. Let's take a deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, release the knees to the right side. And then inhale, bring the knees back to center. Exhale, release the knees to the left side. Inhale, bring the knees back up. And then take an exhale, releasing the knees to the right side. Inhale, bring the knees back to center. And then find your exhale, release the knees to the left side. So continue to do that with your own breath and flow here. Inhale as you bring the knees to center. And use the full exhalations, allowing the knees to fall to one side. And so just having your arms down by your sides and just noticing the body twisting and turning. Maybe noticing certain textures in your body as you move the knees side to side. So keep moving the knees side to side, windshield wipering the knees, but bring the arms up to goalpost arms or cactus arms. So the back of my hands are rested against the floor there. I'm still windshield wipering my knees, but start to notice now where you're feeling a stretch. So maybe you're feeling a stretch more now into the hip flexors a little more, up into the side body, the lower ribs perhaps. So keep moving the knees side to side. Take the arms up to a V shape. So taking the arms up to a V shape and continuing windshield wipering the knees and just noticing how that feels. Taking this nice and slow, side to side. Maybe even checking in with the low back. How is the low back feeling? And with the arms up into a V shape, noticing how the stretch just kind of starts to move farther up the body, farther up into the side body. And the next time your knees are back up to center, pause there, release the arms down by your side, heel toe the feet closer together, so about hips distance apart. Feel free to lift the hips and maybe slide the tailbone closer down towards the heels of your feet there, creating some elongation into the spine again. And then on an inhale, start to bring the right knee towards the chest. And then cross the right ankle over the top of the left thigh, finding a figure four. So finding a figure four here. Feel free to leave the arms down by your sides, or maybe perhaps bringing the hands to your belly. And coming back to a slow, steady breath, just something organic and rhythmic for your body. And start to notice if this is enough sensation that you're feeling along that right outer hip. Or if you would like to feel a little bit more sensation, feel free to pick up the left foot and bring the left knee towards the chest. And maybe you interlace the fingers behind the left hamstring. And feel free to keep the feet active as well. So maybe you flex both feet. Keeping the front of the body kind of nice and soft though. So see if you can keep the shoulder blades down towards the mat. Start to notice where you're feeling any sensation. So again, maybe that outer right hip. Perhaps maybe some sensation along the left hamstring there, especially if you have your hands clasped behind the left thigh. And just come back to the breath. So anytime that your mind starts to wander, know that that's totally normal, especially in a yin practice. And so whenever you find that your mind wants to wander, gently bring your attention back with an inhale. And so, whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly release the clasp and then start to turn onto that left hip. We're going to bring the sole of the right foot all the way down to the floor there. And so the left arm is kind of extended out there. And then feel free to bend that left elbow and use your fingers as a little kickstand for the right knee. And so the left leg can be a little bit more extended straight if that's more comfortable. I find it more comfortable to keep my left knee bent, but feel free to explore there. And so we don't really want the left arm to do much work here, just using the fingertips or the hand as a little kickstand. Just getting a nice stretch all along the hip area. So we're not really targeting a certain muscle here, but just targeting the low back and the whole hip area. And just allowing this to be extra soothing and decadent, and especially if you've been sitting at a desk all day. Maybe it's been a stressful day at work and you just need to release some tension in the hips and the low back. Such a great one to come back to, kind of being in this position here, allowing the body to just slowly stretch those muscles more in a passive way. And so maybe you keep the eyes closed here and just meditate on any sensations that come up. Being gentle with yourself when sensations do arise. So just keeping that non-judgmental outlook to anything that comes up in the body or even in the mind. So with some deep hip openers, sometimes there can be some emotions that might come up, and just keeping an eye on the energies and the ebb and flows of things, and just knowing that it's totally normal. And so whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly start to shift the knees to where we're going to stack the knees right on top of each other, coming to a supine spinal twist. So taking your time with this, stacking the knees on top of each other, maybe you open the arms out to a T. And so here, if you have a blanket or a large towel, maybe you want to place it in between the knees or perhaps underneath that left knee. So my right knee is stacked on top of my left knee. And my back is nice and relaxed on the mat there. My arms are out to a T. But feel free to bring the arms to whichever position feels best for you. My eyes are turned down and just starting to meditate on the sensations that start to arise. Feeling a gentle stretch maybe in the low back, down the legs. Inviting in conscious breaths here. And so sometimes the trickiest part in a Yin Yoga class is just finding that stillness, whether it's within the body itself or the mind, allowing yourself that stillness. And the next time you take an inhale, let's slowly help bring the knees back up through center. So feel free to just kind of help bring the knees with your hands back up to center. Take a moment to hug the knees into the chest there. And maybe you sway side to side. Feel free to even wrap the knees with the hands and make just some small circles there. And I love to keep my eyes closed in a Yin Yoga practice. Just kind of helps turning my attention more inwards. So feel free to keep the eyes closed if that's comfortable for you. Perhaps maybe just lowering the gaze. So come back to hugging the knees into the chest and then start to extend the legs long into the air. Maybe just pointing or flexing the feet for a moment. Feel free to bring the hands behind your hamstrings. And again, maybe just pointing or flexing the feet, circling the ankles for a moment. Then start to bend the knees and reach for the big toes or the ankles. We're coming to a happy baby pose. So if the big toes or the ankles are not available, no worries. Feel free to wrap the hands behind the knees or maybe perhaps down more towards the behind the upper thighs there. So just finding your happy baby pose, what works best in your body right here, right now. And so just noticing how the body feels in your happy baby. So trying not to force anything in the body. We don't want to go to our max, our full range of motion here. So whether that be you start out with the hands behind the knees, and then you gradually start to reach for the big toes or the ankles. Start out slow, and then you can always work your way up from there. And just seeing if the body slowly opens up. Most important to just meet your body where it's at. And so if you're noticing the low back wants to peel up off the mat, no worries. You can allow that to happen, so don't feel like you need to keep the tailbone drawn down. Feel free to kind of just pull the knees closer towards the chest and have the tailbone up off of the mat there. And so sometimes it can be difficult to come back to the breath in a happy baby. So see if you can come back to inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. Seeing if you can keep just a slow, steady breath. We'll be here for just a few more breath cycles. So it's really common to feel a little bit achy after a Yin Yoga practice, especially if you're targeting the low back and the hips. Just knowing that achiness and kind of that feeling of wanting to groan after you come out of these poses, it's totally normal. And so whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly start to bring the knees together. Just take your time here, go nice and slow. Hug the knees into the chest. And then just take a moment to plant the feet about hips distance apart there. Maybe you pick up the hips and slide the tailbone down towards your heels again. And then let's take a moment to bring the left knee towards the chest and then cross the left ankle over the top right thigh. So finding a figure 4 on this side. And just checking in again with how this feels. So maybe this is enough sensation for you. Or if you would like to feel a little bit more here in your figure 4, feel free to pick up the right foot, interlace the fingers behind the right thigh, the hamstring area. And that will definitely create some more sensation into that left hip, maybe the left hamstring area. And perhaps maybe even you're feeling some acupressure points along the right hamstring, just by having that clasp behind the hamstring there. And just noticing again how this feels. Seeing if you can keep the pelvis nice and relaxed down towards the mat. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. And maybe just checking in with the jaw, making sure that you're not gripping through the jaw, keeping the entire face nice and soft. And checking in with the backs of the shoulders and just making sure that the chest is relaxed, the shoulders are relaxed. And so feel free to also maybe keep the feet activated by flexing the feet. So you can invite that in at any time. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly start to shift onto that right hip a little bit, bringing the left sole of the foot all the way down towards the mat. And so just keeping that right arm out towards the side, bend the right elbow. And again, using just the fingertips to kind of help just facilitate this little kickstand here for the left knee. So my right fingertips are just kind of barely touching that left knee and giving it a little kickstand support there. My left arm is just down by my side, but feel free to bring that left hand towards the belly, especially if you're having a hard time coming back to the practice, if your mind is wanting to wander often. Maybe just having the hand to the belly can help ground you a little bit more. Have kind of thinking a little bit of having the breath and using it as an anchor. So just finding a comfortable position for that left arm, the left hand. And start to invite in some deep belly breaths. And so feel free to also explore the placement of the right leg. So maybe perhaps you want to start straightening out that right leg a little bit. I prefer to keep a bend in the right knee, but feel free to play with that option as well. It might feel best in your body to have it a little bit more extended there. Keeping the inhales nice and smooth, allowing yourself to fully exhale. And so sometimes we want to rush and inhale and rush and exhale. So really making this time for some self-care, to check in with your body and exploring the breath here, allowing yourself that full inhale, full exhale, and see if you can make the exhale slightly longer than the inhales. Perhaps coming back to that 4-count inhale, 6-count exhale. We'll be here for a few more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, start to slowly shift the legs. So stacking one knee on top of the other, coming to that supine spinal twist, I should say. So stacking the left knee on top of the right knee, and just having the back of my body nice and relaxed on the mat. My arms are out to a T. Feel free to bring the knees closer towards your chest or maybe a little bit farther away and see how that feels on the left hip. Finding a good placement for the knees there. And then again, feel free to, if you have a blanket or a towel, feel free to bring that in between the knees or resting underneath that right knee. Maybe you start to close down the eyes again if they're not already closed. Turning your attention back inwards as we shifted positions and starting to see what comes up here in a spinal twist. Start to come back to some conscious breaths, soothing, nurturing breaths. Maybe you start to meditate on any sensations that might be coming up. Allowing any unserving thoughts to just go to the side. Give yourself the time and permission to just slowly unwind here. Even if you have to tell yourself that through each transition, through each pose that we move through, tell yourself mentally that you deserve this time to relax fully into the pose. You deserve the time and the space to fully explore into the pose. And to take time to reconnect to your mat, your practice, and your breath. And more importantly, just taking time for you. And so whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly come out of this position here. And so maybe you start to use an inhale and help bring the hands around the knees and bring the knees back up to center. Just take a moment to hug the knees into the chest. And then start to stretch the legs out long down the mat. And then maybe you start to take a full body stretch here. So maybe you start to raise the arms up overhead, allowing the legs and the arms to be nice and long, and allowing the spine to be nice and long. So bringing in some length into the spine again, some space there. And so we're going to move into a banana pose. So whenever you're ready, start to walk the feet towards the outer right edge of the mat, the bottom right outer edge. Start to bring the upper body towards the top right edge of the mat there. And so just creating a banana shape with the body. So just stopping at the point where you're feeling a stretch here. So not going to your max. We want to ease into the stretch here. So finding a stopping point, maybe 70% of your range of motion. And so once you have found your posture here, or your shape rather, feel free to cross one ankle over the left. So my preference here is crossing the left ankle over the right, but in your body, it might feel good to cross the right ankle over the left. So feel free to explore there and just having the arms rested up by your head. And if you start to experience any sort of sharp shooting, tingling pain into the legs or the arms, just gently come out of this pose, coming back to the spine nice and long, coming back to a corpse pose. But if you're in this banana shape, start to feel into the side ribs with the breath. Start to take a full deep inhale through the nose, bringing in the awareness and the circumference around the rib cage. Notice on the inhale the expansion of the ribs. And as you exhale, noticing how the body softens and contracts. And so see if you can also keep the left shoulder just nice and heavy there. So sometimes we want to keep that unintentional gripping or tension sensations in our body. See if you can keep the shoulder blades nice and relaxed. The tops of the thighs, keep them relaxed. Release any extra tension around the pelvis and the hips. And maybe noticing what parts of the back are touching the mat and what parts are not touching the mat. And so whenever you're ready, start to uncross the ankle if they're crossed. Start to just kind of walk the feet in the arms, bringing the upper body back towards the middle of your mat there. And just coming back to long legs, arms extended up, or if you need to give the arms a break, feel free to bring them down by your sides. And just take a moment to pause here with the body just in a corpse pose. And then whenever you're ready, start to raise the arms up overhead again. Walk the feet towards the outer left edge of the mat. Bring the upper body towards the left part of your mat. Create your banana shape. And finding where the body So feel free to re-scan your body, checking in with certain points that maybe you can release any extra tension. So maybe even down at the ankles or the feet. Sometimes we tend to grip around the ankles and feel like we need to hold ourselves up, but really with this position here, we want to just completely be as relaxed as we can. Getting that nice passive stretch into the right side body, the hip flexor, the obliques. And whenever you're ready, start to uncross that ankle if it was crossed there. Bring the body back to center. Take a full body stretch here. Taking a full body stretch, or really any stretch that might feel good in your body. Before we close out the practice, feel free to come to a constructive rest pose at any time. So bending the knees, planting the feet towards the outer edge of your mat. Bring the knees together again. Maybe you bring hands to heart center or to the belly. So if you're bringing hands to heart center here, just kind of hovering the hands in front of your face, or again, bringing hands to the belly. Take a deep breath in through the nose. A long exhale through the mouth. Let's do that one more time. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Long exhale through the mouth. Taking a moment to notice the effects of the practice. Maybe the quality of the breath, the state of the mind. So to close out the practice, maybe you start to bring hands to heart center.